Hey guys, Darthin12 here, on another episode of Dueling Like a General. Today, like I promised in the last video, we're going to be talking about the mirror match and ways you can excel in this test of skill against other Dark World decks. Alright, so what is the mirror match all about? Well, the mirror match, the winner of the mirror match is usually the person that keeps control of the field with the Gates of Dark World and their own Graphas. Usually that's the winner of the duel and the one that can, disrupt the most plays from the other player. What are other ways to disrupt? What are some ways you can disrupt the plays from another Dark World player? You can use cards that remove specific cards from play when they hit the graveyard, like DD Crow. You can use cards like Dark Smog, which I actually don't have here right now. I'm looking for one. If anyone was willing to trade me one, I'll be really welcome. Cards like DD Crow, once again, here showing it. You can use, you can actually disrupt their plays with cards like Drag Down to the Grave. You can take down their own the gates that are like stuck in the hand, or you can take cards out like their own drag downs. You can take them out with your drag downs, and then they don't have discard outlets. It's all about taking out the engine of the other player. So it's like if you have an engine and your opponent doesn't have an engine, you're winning. It's also about watching out and predicting what Dark World monsters your opponents have. So you really need to be careful, like, to not activate secondary effects of your opponent's Dark World monsters unless they can't do anything. For example, if you have cards on the field and your opponent is playing gold, your opponent is playing gold, then you don't want to risk activating a gold from your opponent, because then your cards on the field will be blown up. If you have important cards in your hand and your opponent, and you know that your opponent is playing silver, you don't want to risk playing a silver because you don't want to risk playing an opponent's silver, because then you're going to lose 2 cards from your hand to the bottom of the deck. Same goes for Grapha, like if you have important cards and important monsters in your hand. Or same goes for Snow, if you want to discard a Dark World monster and the Snow is being discarded, and they're going to special summon your monster and you're going to lose it to Snow, etc., etc. So you really need to watch out for that, and you really need to know like when to activate what. So, for example, in the case of Snow, Snow is really the trickiest one. So I'm starting with the hardest one, because usually when Snow activates, your monsters are activating too. So Snow will like take your monster that is activating at the same time as she is. So when Snow is being activated, you have to accept that you're going to lose your monster, especially and most dangerously if it's a Grapha. But the plus side of this is that the monster comes in defense position, so it's going to be easy to destroy because Dark World monsters don't have a lot of defense. Look at Snow. It has got 0. Grapha has 1800. Gold has 1700 on their gates, 1400 alone. So yeah, the plus side is that they're on defense, so you can capitalize on that when you are activating an opponent's Snow. Now, an easy one is actually Brow, because Brow, the only thing they're gonna do is draw one more card in you. And yeah, if you're against a Turbo Dark World build, then that helps them a lot. But if you're like of another Dark World build that is kind of on the same pace as yours, or if it's just as fast as yours, then he will be like a little bit on the edge, ahead of you. But if you know how to play it right, then it should be no problem. So you shouldn't fear that much of a Brow. Grapha is easily disrupted if you don't have any Dark World monsters or any monsters in your hand. So if you feel like if you have very few Dark World monsters and you want to discard them, then go ahead and just go Grapha. A great time to play card destruction in the mirror match is when your opponent has Grapha in his hand, because then you know that when you play card destruction and you have a bunch of Dark World monsters in your hand, they're going to be in the graveyard, and chances are that you're not going to draw as many Dark World monsters when card destruction resolves, so Grapha won't be that powerful. Now you do need to watch out for Snow. Snow, if your opponent has Snow, then you're in trouble when you card destruction, because then they will take a monster from your graveyard, the ones that are activating in the graveyard. Then when it comes to that's about it. Like when it comes to the different Dark World monsters that are used in various decks, so it really doesn't have an effect that activates when an opponent discards him. Rainbow, well, you know, that's something you can actually play around a lot. Also, just like Rafa, if you have, or just like Gold, if you don't have anything in the field that can be destroyed, then he won't be any problem. So you have to know like how to play around with your opponent. Also, a great way to disrupt an opponent's plays and safely discard your own with cards like Dark World Dealings and Card Destruction is using Dark Smog. Dark Smog, I mean, as soon as your opponent's Dark World monster hits the graveyard, you chain Dark Smog to their effect, and then you can disrupt their effect, and you get yours clean, super nice, and well, they don't get anything. So yeah, Dark Smog is actually an excellent card in the mirror match, and it's also one of those key cards that you want to protect, because is the card Dark Smog, along with cards like Beady Crow, are going to be the cards that are going to help you disrupt your opponent's engine while keeping yours intact. Then one of the biggest fears of Dark World players in the mirror match is Gates of Dark World protecting it. And actually, the curious thing about this is that not many people know how to protect this card efficiently. There is a ruling about field spell cards. The common ruling about field spell cards that everybody knows is that when a field card is activated, while another field card is on the field, then the one, as soon as the field card resolves, then the one that was already in the field before the activation of the one that just came in, then gets destroyed. But something that many people don't know, and this is actually something that I found out not too long ago. It was about like 3 months ago. I was playing a tournament, and a high-scale tournament, some kind of like almost a regionals here in the local San Juan area. And yeah, I was actually playing Dark Worlds, and I played a field spell, and they chained Mystical Space Typhoon to my field spell. And now the thing is that if a field spell enters but is destroyed before it can fully resolve, the field spell that was already active stays active. So if you want to find a great way to protect your own Gates of Dark World while still heavily disrupting your opponent's Gates of Dark World, would be with Mystical Space Typhoon or Dust Tornado. That's a great card to to have in the mirror match. That's also even a great card to have, period, because, I mean, if you don't have your gates, but they open their gates, they activate the cost of their gates to banish a Fiend monster from their graveyard. You can then chain Mystical, and they can't discard, and they lost a monster with the Banish Stone on top of that. So Mystical Space Typhoon is an amazing card to have in the mirror match. It's actually something I would recommend siding out for stuff like Skill Drain that doesn't affect Dark World as much. So you can side out Skill Drain, side in Mystical Space Typhoon, and have that ready for your opponent's Gates of Dark Worlds. When your Gates of Dark World's in trouble, you can chain Mystical Space Typhoon to the opponent's activating Gates of Dark World, and your Gates of Dark World will stay intact. Now, this could be wrong. I mean, if somebody does some research, I did some research. I actually found it to be true. But if somebody else has something to say on the contrary, you can feel free to comment in the comment section below and say whatever correct ruling it is. But for now, that's what I know that happens. And it's actually something really helpful that actually made me gave me some insight on how to play the mirror match more effectively. Another thing about Dark World, a really powerful card in Dark World is actually the Virus. The key thing of the Virus is not many people actually know this, but the Virus destroys cards in the hand. It doesn't discard them. So you know your opponent is having brow. You know your opponent has brow. When you chain virus to destroy that brow in the hand, the brow won't activate, and he lost that brow in the process. So I mean, I know Dark World doesn't play that many 1400 or lower monsters, but if you're going against a tour guide build or as a tour guide build, virus is really good card, especially when they even go tour guide to brow. I mean, that way they can't plus and you destroy 2 monsters that they own. So yeah, virus is also a very good card in the mirror match. Epidemic virus is also a great card in the mirror match. I'm actually looking for it right here. Epidemic virus gets rid of your opponent's field spell cards. It also gets rid of their Dark World Demons. It gets rid of their drag down to the grave. So if you're going in the mirror match, side this in. You can even side it for your own. I mean, you can side virus for virus. So you can take out Deck Devastation and side in Epidemic. And with Epidemic, you disrupt almost at least 80% of their engine. I mean, unless they're running Trans Archfiend or they're running some kind of other discard outlet like Dark Smog, you basically, this is GG. Like, it's like you call out spell cards, you destroy their field spell, you destroy all their drag down dealings, their Dark World dealings are dragged down to the graves of their Monster Reborn, their Heavy Storm, everything. I mean, it's an excellent card in the mirror match. I really suggest you use it. And then other cards that help in the mirror match are actually cards like Doom Caliber Knight. Now, this is actually one of the reasons I mentioned earlier that I was using Doom Caliber Knight was because Doom Caliber Knight always triggers to the last effect on the chain. So if you go card destruction and a bunch of Dark World monsters activate at the same time, opponents and yours included, this one, Doom Caliber Knight will always chain to the very last of your opponent's effects. So this, Doom Caliber is actually a card that puts in a lot of pressure to your opponent and, really puts them thinking like, okay, which effect do I really want to go off? I mean, do I want Grapha to go off? Do I want Gold to go off? Do I want Brow to go off? Do I want Snow to go off? I mean, it really puts your opponent to think, what do I really need? I mean, sometimes, like some pro players they won't have a hard time with figuring out which card to put in the last on the chain for Doom Caliber Knights to negate, but some other players might have a tougher time, and Doom Caliber Knight is really good in the mirror match. Plus, he's a fiend. He's 1900. He's 2,200 under gates, so he's really good. Plus, he's epidemic brawler. I mean, you can use him for the viruses. Really great card in the mirror match. Other good cards in the mirror match are Gold and Silva. I mean, these guys are just bosses when the effects are activated by your opponent. So, I mean, if you're facing a turbo build, I mean, I put 2 golds in my side deck because if I'm facing Dark World, and most of Dark Worlds are turbo builds right now, I know they're going to be running Dark World Dealing, so chances are they're going to discard I can discard my Gold or I can discard my Silva and I can disrupt their hand or their field. And aside from that, once again, let's go over what's the point of the mirror match. Well, you're winning the mirror match when you have your gates open, and you have your Graph on the grave, and you have a good hand, and when your opponent doesn't have an engine. So what are key cards to take out the engine? Key cards like Dark Smog, BB Crow, Epidemic Virus, and Drag Down. Those are some good cards to use in the mirror match. Also, cards to disrupt the Dark World players' monsters, Doom Caliber Knight. Skill Drain doesn't work. Skill Drain doesn't work in the mirror match, so side it out. Always side it out. And always put MSTs to protect your own field spells against other field spells and other cards, alright? Alright, well, that's it for the mirror match for now. If I need to do a second video on the mirror match, I'll be more than welcome to. But for now, I hope this covers everything, and we'll see you in the next episode of Dueling Like a General.